Alright, so now I'd like to begin the development of the Fire Arkoyle itself. As part of this design, I'd actually like it to shoot a burst fire of fireballs, kind of in an arc. So what you're seeing here is I actually already went ahead and created it. I'll kind of walk back and kind of walk you through my struggle through it, as it was quite complicated working with these angles to get everything just right. But I'll go ahead and cast it and kind of start to show off what I mean. There's still a lot of problems with the code, but as you can see here, it just shoots 3 fireballs off in an arc. This has, of course, been fully set up. What's not wrong button? This one. This has been fully set up so that it's going to kind of work off of a series of how many spells you want to cast, and also sort of an angle to work off of. This is more for me for development, so you kind of get an idea of how wide of an arc this is going to be. This, of course, can cast out to farther distances and whatnot. You can move around and everything. It's kind of, let me show off the movement, because it's kind of interesting where you can cast a spell and you can just sort of move, and then from the location it casts from, it's actually going to do the spell cast right there. So it's going to shoot the arc off from wherever you are, instead of for how normal spell casts work, where you can click and cast, but wherever it gets cast, it's going to get cast right there, as you can see. When I do it with this one, let's do, say I'm going to click back here again, I'll move up here. I'm just going to shoot from that direction, and then just travel its normal distance outwards. So let's kind of hop into the code and I'll show you around with that. So the code itself is actually quite straightforward. What we have here is just the number of spells to spawn, and then basically the maximum angle to spawn them at. If I go to the main part of the code, the primary part takes place right about here, with the quaternion.angle access call. What this is basically doing is it's giving us a point in a circle, which we can consider the center of the circle to be the player unit in a sense, and the point chosen to basically be the direction the spell should be traveling in. After we do this call, we just need to assign it to the position of the target itself. You can see this new target call is actually the target's physical position. We're adding on to that, and this call itself is not going to give us a direct position for the spell to travel to. Instead, it's going to give us a point far past that. However, it's going to give us the correct angle at any given position that we're at, which allows you to be able to cast the spell, move around, and then have the spell fire from wherever your character got moved to. A very important part about this code is that it does need to work through every single spell you want to cast, as you can see here. But on top of that, we need to differentiate between the first spell being cast, which should always go roughly towards the target to be cast upon, and then for the evens we want to fill out the right side, and for the odds we want to fill out the left side, and this will just essentially give us our full angle. I gotta admit that there is still some issues with this code, primarily when you try to go beyond 180 degrees, it starts to mess up a little bit. But what it's doing right now is perfectly sufficient for what I need it for. So I will continue with that. Also, in case you guys are interested in some code, I'll write up a little bit of pseudocode that will just kind of break all this down into a more generalized form, so you can just kind of adapt it into how you need it. Because I know when I was doing research for this in specific, it was quite a complicated task of just figuring out all the different angle stuff and all that other kind of trigonometry type math. One quick thing I actually forgot to mention is back onto this part right here where we're talking about the target position. Since this is going to be way far beyond the actual position that we'll be shooting the spell to, what I did is a little bit of a trick in which I just set up a little max distance variable, in which case we can kind of hop into the function here. It uses this little, just a simple little max distance, and all it's really doing is letting the system, or not the system, but letting the game's code only run this until we've reached a certain total distance traveled. So without further ado, that's the primary feature I wanted for the Fire Arkoyle. I'm going to go ahead and design it and let you guys see what happens.